In Lesson 7.5's example, Would you like some tea? We'll be using Table B to determine a critical value. What critical value T star from Table B should be used in constructing a confidence interval for the population mean in each of the following settings? So in Part A, we have a 95% confidence interval, and that's coming from a simple random sample of size 12. So to use Table B, you should recall you need to know two things. You need to know the degrees of freedom, and that's going to be your sample size minus 1. And then you also need to know your tail probability when constructing a confidence interval. So remember, the 95% confidence level would be in the center, which means 5% is left over. So half of that is what would be your tail probability, or the probability in the tails. So our degrees of freedom, like I said before, is your sample size minus 1, so it's 11. For 95% confidence interval, one tail is going to have 2.5% or 0.025 as a tail probability. So using those two values and looking along the margins of Table B, where those two overlap, you can see is the critical value of 2.201. In Part B, we're asked to find a 90% confidence interval from a random sample of 48 observations, and we still want to find that critical value. So similarly, the tail probability now is going to be 5% or 0.05, and for a simple random sample of 48, the degrees of freedom would be one less, which is 47. However, Table B, you'll notice as the degrees of freedom get higher, starts to jump by 10 as opposed to jumping by 1s, so 47 is not listed. So what we're going to do instead is use a more conservative approach, which is the degrees of freedom being 40. So if we look at the degrees of freedom as 40, again, we're not going to round to 50, we're going to be conservative here. Then our T value, our critical value here is 1.684. If you'd like more practice using Table B and determining critical values or T stars, you can try exercise 5 at the end of this section.